Okay, for this explainer, we're diving into something that feels like it's straight out of a sci-fi horror movie. We're talking about a parasite that pulls off one of the most chilling acts of manipulation in all of nature. Welcome to the absolutely bizarre world of the horsehair worm.
So let's start with a really unsettling question. I mean, think about it. Crickets are land animals, right? They belong on the ground, they definitely can't swim, so why would one just walk, as if in a trance, straight to a pond or a swimming pool and throw itself in? It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, here's the shocking answer. The cricket isn't choosing to do this. It's not in control of its own body anymore. It's become a zombie, a puppet. And its very last act is to deliver its hidden master back to its home, in the water. Right, so who is this sinister puppet master pulling the strings? It's time we properly meet the creature at the heart of this incredible and kind of terrifying story. Their scientific name is Nematomorpha. Now, you've probably heard of their cousins, the nematodes, also known as roundworms. But as you're about to see, horsehair worms are, well, they're in a whole different league. And here's where they really stand apart. You see, while some nematodes might be parasitic, horsehair worms are always parasitic. In fact, they're what's known as parasitoids, which is a fancy way of saying they almost always kill their host. And get this, it gets even weirder. The adult worms don't even have a working gut. All the eating they'll ever do happens when they're living inside their victim. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, these things can get ridiculously long. Can you imagine a worm, sometimes up to 2 meters long, all coiled up inside the body of a little insect like a cricket? It's just an unbelievable feat of biological engineering. So how does this whole creepy journey even start? I mean, how does a worm that needs water end up inside a cricket that lives on dry land? Well, it's a brilliant, multi-stage covert operation that all begins in the water. This whole life cycle is like a carefully planned heist. First, the eggs are laid in these sticky strings in the water. Then, some other bug, like a mayfly larva, comes along and eats the baby worm. The little worm then burrows into the mayfly's body and just waits, like a stowaway on a ship. It's only when that mayfly grows up, flies onto land, and then gets eaten by a cricket that the worm finally reaches its target destination. Okay, so the worm is in. It's inside its final host, the cricket. The clock is officially ticking, and the stage is set for the craziest part of the story, the ultimate mind control heist. For the next month or so, the worm just grows and grows and grows, basically eating all of the cricket's fat reserves from the inside out. The poor cricket becomes a hollowed-out version of itself. It even stops making its famous chirping sound. But the worm is careful to keep its host alive because it still needs a chauffeur to get it back to the water. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? How on earth does a simple worm, with no brain to speak of, manage to hijack the brain of a cricket and force it to do something so completely against its own survival instincts? The honest answer is, we're not 100% sure, but scientists have some mind-blowing theories. One idea is that the worm releases chemicals that perfectly mimic the cricket's own brain signals, basically tricking it. Or it could be directly messing with the cricket's nervous system. Another really cool theory is that it messes with the cricket's sense of gravity, its internal compass, making it wander around confused until it stumbles into water. But you know what? No matter how it does it, the end game is always the same. The worm takes the wheel, and this poor land-dwelling cricket is driven by an unstoppable urge to find the nearest body of water and dive right in. It's the ultimate proof that the parasite is in complete control. So the cricket hits the water, the worm's mission is a success. But the story doesn't quite end there. What happens next? And what other strange secrets are these creatures hiding? So as the worm bursts out of its drowning host, it immediately starts looking for others of its kind. And their mating ritual is so bizarre, it's earned them a nickname from an ancient legend about a knot that was impossible to untie. It's truly a sight to behold. These super long, thin worms all emerge and just start twisting and writhing around each other, forming this massive tangled ball. This is what's called a Gordian knot, and it's how they mate to start this whole crazy cycle all over again. So you're probably wondering, what about the cricket? Well, believe it or not, if it's lucky enough to not actually drown, it can often survive the worm bursting out of its body. And don't worry, you're safe. These worms are not parasites of humans. But maybe the most amazing fact of all is how tough they are. Get this. If a frog eats the cricket right as the worm is coming out, the worm can actually survive being eaten, pass all the way through the frog's digestive system, and come out the other end totally fine. Incredible.
Now, this isn't just some morbid curiosity from the natural world. It actually matters to us. By figuring out how these worms can hijack a cricket's brain, scientists get really important clues about how other mind-altering parasites work. We're talking about things like toxoplasma, which can infect humans and has been linked to some really serious health problems. The fate of this little cricket could actually help us understand human health. And all of this just leaves you with one final incredible thought. The story of the horsehair worm is this powerful reminder that we're surrounded by these complex, hidden dramas we know nothing about. I mean, if a simple worm can pull off this level of sophisticated mind control, what else is happening out there right under our noses that we haven't even begun to discover?